My name's Noelle Adamo, and I'm on the board of directors for the Maya Gold Foundation. And I'm standing here with Callie Kircher and Anna Basin. They are two teens on our teen advisory board, and collectively we're just going to take a few moments to welcome you all and introduce this exciting evening that we have planned ahead. This is our second community event of the Maya Gold Foundation's fall series, and it's called Emotions Matter, Creating More Compassionate Schools and Communities Through Emotional Intelligence. We had our first event in September. It was a film about the use of digital media called Screenagers, and we had a panel discussion after that. We're really excited that this fall series has begun, and our mission with the Maya Gold Foundation is to empower youth to access their inner wisdom and realize their dreams. And with that, our purpose is to help you thrive. And to do that, one of our grander visions is to create a world in which adults and youth can grow and learn together. And so we want for these monthly events to be a start to having community dialogue across ages. For tonight, we'd like to give thanks to Nancy Schneiderwind and the SUNY New Paltz Humanistic Multicultural Education Program for co-sponsoring this program with us. Thank you so much. It's great to have the support of others and to be working with others, because we can't do this work alone. So thanks for being here. There's information about this program in the foyer, which please take before you leave this evening. And this event has also been partially funded by a generous grant from the Tompkins Charitable Trust. So far, in less than a year, the Maya Gold Foundation has helped several young people in Nepal with education and essentials, involved teens in the region with 2 community art projects, instituted a scholarship for 2 high school students involved in community service efforts, created a grant program called Thrive for local organizations working with youth. Grant applications are reviewed quarterly, with our next review after December 21st. We've developed a strategic plan. We've engaged in a series of focus groups in collaboration with SUNY students and teens from the New Paltz Youth Program. And we've established our teen advisory board, comprised of 11 local teens. We'll hear a little bit about that now.
The Teen Advisory Board met for our first time this past September. Together, we came up with our statement of purpose: give youth a voice. We are still getting to know each other, but we are looking forward to working with the Maya Gold Foundation. Please also join us at our next community event this fall on November 17th. Mikey Fallon will be presenting his own one-man show, You Don't Know Me Until You Know Me, at the Rosendale Theater. All of the information is on our website, mayagoldfoundation.org. This program is also free of charge.
The exits are here and here, and you'll actually be using your phones at some point tonight. More on that from the facilitators soon, so don't put them away just yet. T-shirts are available for sale in the lobby. If you want to get involved, like us on Facebook, sign up to volunteer on the form on the website, and please join our mailing list by giving us your information at the table in the lobby. Donations for all of this good work are always appreciated. There is a donation box in the lobby, and you can always contribute via the website. We welcome and encourage your feedback about tonight or regarding any other thoughts or ideas you may have. Feel free to reach out to any of us or contact us through our website.
So this evening's going to be experiential with Shauna Tomini and Catherine Lee, offering us both presentation and also some group work over the next hour and a half. So we invite you to please stay for all of this. The full group sessions are being filmed for a documentary about the Maya Gold Foundation, but we will not be filming the breakout sessions. So I'd just like to take a moment to introduce our fantastic facilitators for tonight. Catherine Lee, MA. She's a project director of Ruler for Families, which explores emotional skill building in the home as well as innovative pathways for developing partnerships between families and schools. Among the projects in development are an emotionally intelligent workshop series, dynamic online resources for families, and an online guide for schools to direct their family engagement efforts. Catherine is a longtime advocate for real-world education, relevant to a rapidly changing world. She's taught preschool to middle school, served as a senior administrator of an independent school in the Bay Area of California, curated a TEDx event on compassion in education, designed nationally recognized service learning and environmental stewardship programs. Catherine holds a BA in Human Development from the University of the Pacific and an MA in Early Childhood Education from Mills College. Most importantly, she is a parent. Shauna Tomini, PhD, is a consultant at the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence and an assistant professor of practice at Oregon State University. As a former director of early childhood programming and teacher education for Ruler, she supports projects related to preschool Ruler and Ruler's early childhood efforts. Dr. Tomini holds undergraduate degrees in music and psychology from the University of Washington, an MS in Family Studies and Human Services from Kansas State University, and a PhD in Human Development and Family Sciences from Oregon State University. Thank you so much. Hope you enjoy this evening.
Thank you. Okay. Well, thank you. We were just going to say, we're Catherine and Shauna from the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence. Thank you for that. We're honored to be here. And so this is gives you a little bit idea of what our center is about. Boy, I realize I can't see up here. So originally, what we started out as a research lab about 25 years ago that was about researching emotions, and now we're a mission-driven center. And this is our mission: to use the power of emotional intelligence to create a healthier. I don't know what to do. To create a healthier and more creative, equitable, and compassionate society. So this is our work. It's a big mission. I'm afraid to come close now. I'm not sure what's going to happen here.
We'll see what we can do with this. So today we're going to be talking about emotional intelligence. So what is emotional intelligence? In a nutshell, emotional intelligence is the skills that we have to respond to our emotions. We all have emotions. We all have a wide range of emotions across races, genders, cultures, individual, and other differences. We all experience emotions. And emotional intelligence is about having those skills to respond to our emotions in a way that we feel good about, with intention, and in a way that helps us achieve our goals. So I'd love to start today off by asking you a question. Before we get too much into emotional intelligence, let's just think about this. Think about the community that you live in. Think about the society that you live in, whether you're a parent here, or a teen, or a professional who works with families, or a teacher. If you had to pick one word to describe the society that you want to live in, what would that word be?
Just throw it out popcorn style.
Caring, loving, yes. Inclusive, supportive. Caring. Open. Fair. Tolerant. Compassionate. Fun. Yeah. Diverse. Free. Equal. I missed one. Creative. So I think it's really interesting that when I ask this question, both today and many other times that I've asked this question, nobody ever says literate. Nobody ever says mathematical. And yet, when you set foot in school, what are the skills that your teachers are accountable for teaching you? They're accountable for teaching math, literacy, scientific thinking, and nobody says, when I think of the one word that's most important about my community and my society, it's scientific reasoning. Now, those skills are important too. Going to school to really build our literacy skills, our math skills, our reasoning skills, our knowledge of science, those are important skills too. But what about those skills to build that society that we were just talking about? One that is fair, that is compassionate, that is understanding, that is equitable, that is diverse, that is supportive. What about those skills? And really, all of those skills relate to that emotional intelligence and what we're talking about here today. So I want to start by sharing a little bit of a story. I'm a parent as well. This is my daughter. She is 6.5 now, but this is a picture of her on her 5th birthday. So on the morning of my daughter's 5th birthday, she woke up and she said, "I'm 5, I'm 5. She was so excited. And we went downstairs. We were going to go for a special breakfast that morning. And we went downstairs. We were living in New Haven at the time. We opened our garage. We went in to get into our car, and this is what we saw. Now, when we think about how we want to feel in our society, how do you think I was feeling that morning? Unsafe. Absolutely. How else? Violated. Yeah. Angry. Absolutely. I wasn't having those feelings that I want to have. Sad. Yeah. And I looked at our car and I was thinking, this is my daughter's birthday. I don't want to feel this way in our neighborhood when I go and open our garage and to find this. And I called the police to file a police report. And they asked me to describe what I saw. And I said, well, the window is broken. And you know what's interesting is that I see pry marks all around the side of the window. And the police officer on the phone said, oh, well, then it had to be teens. And I said, what do you mean? And she said, well, an experienced thief would have been able to pry your window down like they were trying to do without breaking the window. It must have been teens. And so here, then I started walking around my neighborhood that day. I'm looking at teens with that eye, that suspicion of teens. Which one of you did this to my car? Which one of you violated us today? And my daughter said to me, Mom, why would somebody do this? And I had to step back a minute because I wasn't thinking about somebody else's feelings. I was thinking about my own feelings and how I felt at that moment. I said, well, okay, why would somebody do this? How would they have to be feeling? They'd probably be feeling sad or desperate or rejected, maybe violated themselves in some way, maybe resentful. And it sort of got me thinking. And interestingly enough, just coincidentally, the next day I was giving a talk on the Yale campus to teens, those teens again, about public health. And I was the one person invited to talk about mental health. And so we opened up this conversation talking a little bit about mental health. What's mental health all about? It's about how you feel. It's about, well, it's a little bit different than our medical health. I shared this comic with them like I'm sharing it with you today. When we break a bone, hey, sign my cast. When you get a bad cut, check it out, 12 stitches. When we get the flu, maybe on Facebook or somewhere else, I just throw up all over everything I own. I need an old priest and a young priest. We share these things out when we're talking about our physical health. But what about our mental health? What about when we're not feeling well? What about when we are uncomfortable about something? And I asked the room that. I said, how many of you have ever felt like you didn't want to do something because it made you feel uncomfortable or made you feel unsafe? Or you weren't sure how it made you feel, but you knew you didn't want to do it. How many of you felt safe saying, this really makes me uncomfortable. Would you mind if we talked about my feelings right now? How many of you have ever said that? Okay, so we've got some folks in the room. Now, how many of you have had a situation like that and said, I'm sick, so I can't go? And what I found in that room was that almost nobody raised their hand the first time, but everybody raised their hands the second time. Because it's so much easier to say, I don't feel good, I'm just going to stay home. I'm sick. I need to stay at home. And so I asked this group of teens, and I was still feeling a little bit suspicious, teens. One of these teens could have done that to my car. And I asked them how they wanted to feel. And here's what they told me. How do you want to feel at home? How do you want to feel at school? And these were the feelings they shared with me. I want to feel respected, trusted, happy, cared for, loved, safe, awesome, like I matter. That was the thing that came up again and again. They wanted to feel like they mattered. Me too. I also want to feel that way. And I asked them how often they were having these feelings. And what I found as I looked around the room was that most of the teens in the room were circling these lower numbers when they were thinking about how often they were having these feelings. Not everybody, but many of them. And so we talked about strategies for what can you do if you're not having these feelings? What kinds of feelings are you having? And some of the feelings they shared with me were sad, rejected, lonely, isolated. Some of those same feelings that I'd had a conversation with my daughter about that day before, about what someone might be feeling if they had broken into our car. And that day before, I'd gone around with that suspicious look in my eye thinking, gosh, these teens, they're not helping contribute to the society that I want to live in. They're failing us. And I switched around in that moment and I thought, wait a minute, maybe we're failing them. Maybe we're not supporting them and letting them have a voice and letting them feel like they matter in the way that they need to. And this wasn't just the teens in that room. what was very interesting is that we talked about some strategies that day for what are some of the things you could do if you're not having the feelings you want to have. And when we were all done, I cleaned up, I turned around and I started packing up my things, started packing up my mood meters, and I went to leave, and I walked out the door, and guess what I saw? A line of teens. And all the teens in the room had waited for me. And I brought them in one at a time, and they started sharing things. They wanted someone to talk to about those feelings they were having or weren't having. And one teen said, you know, I'm being bullied at school. I can talk to my parents about this, but how do I get myself through the day so I can get home and feel safe? Another teen said, I don't feel safe at home, but I feel safe at school. What do I do about that? How do I have a conversation with my parents about this? Another said, I have so many academic pressures. I just feel like the weight of the world is on my shoulders and I don't know how to handle it. And another said, my home culture and my school culture are different and I don't know where I fit into the middle. They wanted a voice. We all want a voice, and that's one of the missions of the Maya Gold Foundation, is to give youth a voice, to give all of us a voice. So, what's interesting is that these feelings aren't unique to the teens in that room. The Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence last year conducted a survey of 22,000 teens across the country as part of a project called the Emotion Revolution. And they asked them, how are you feeling? How are you feeling at school? And guess what they said? There were some pleasant feelings on there, like happy, but the feelings that came up the most often were stressed, tired, and bored. So we're going to be talking about feelings. That's what we'll be doing for this next hour and a half. We'll be talking about emotions, and just some basic ground rules is that, well, we know that feelings are not just the happy feelings, but there are also unpleasant feelings. We'll just be exploring all of those together. And we want to create a safe place to do this, so just that feels like a non-judgmental atmosphere, that it's confidential, what's said in the room stays in the room. If you don't feel like sharing, you certainly don't have to. That's optional for you. And just try to just empty yourself of judgments and just be present and listen to what people have to say. So we just wanted to start out by asking both the adults and the teens in the room the different kinds of challenges that they faced. And so let's just talk first to the adults. And again, we're just going to have a kind of a call out, but what are some of the kinds of challenges that you remember that you faced as a teen? What were some of the challenges that you were working with? Isolation. What else?
I was actually just thinking about this on the drive up here, which is strange. As a female, especially in light of some of the political events that we had,
Yeah.
objectification,
Ah.
gender, those roles.
Yeah, being stuck in a certain gender role and trying to work with that somehow as a teen. Okay.
Body image.
Body image. Right. Yep. Fitting in.
Inappropriate touch and sexual assault.
Okay. Inappropriate touch, sexual assault. Not feeling safe at home. Yeah. Wow. Anything else? How to communicate with your parents, right? Yeah.
Wanting to fit in on one hand, and on the other hand, really wanting to express my individuation.
Yeah. So that tension of how to be my own unique person, and yet how to be a part of a group and have a sense of belonging. Yeah. Okay, well let's go over to the teens and kids. So what are some of the kinds of challenges that you're facing now in your lives?
And it doesn't have to be you. It could be just
Somebody else
teens
that
in
you know,
general.
maybe. Yeah.
What are the kinds of
What
challenges?
what are challenges that you think teens face today?
Yeah.
Definitely objectification of
Uh-huh. So that's still
Objectification
going
of
on.
your gender.
Objectification of your gender. What else?
Fitting in and finding out how can I fit in safely.
So this very similar thing. How can I fit in but be myself and be who I am?
Yeah.
Anxiety.
Mm-hmm. So feeling challenged about how to move forward and improve yourselves and do better and be better than the generation that preceded you.
Whether or not to use drugs.
Yeah. The drug question. What else? Any other young people? Any other things that you think that your generation is challenged with? Body image.
So it's interesting that a lot of these same things are being said. That things haven't changed a whole lot. And we know there are ways that it's changed. Technology has changed. Technology has grown. The way that some of these things come across or come into our lives have changed. But a lot of those underlying issues seem to be the same.
Mm-hmm. Sort of a overload of just information coming at you from every direction. So you're saying that somehow, with all that's going on, that's just kind of coming at you from many different directions, that it could be really challenging to just figure out who you are and where this is all going, where's it going to lead, and having some anxieties about that.
Definitely.
Finding fine line between being apart and distancing your family all the time and where not to be true.
Yeah, so finding that is that kind of tension between, individuating and becoming your own self, and yet how close to stay to your family, and what does that look and feel like? Yeah. Okay. Feeling safe at school. Yeah. So it really, you can see the intersections. Some things are different, the technology, as Shauna said, and the access that we have to information, and maybe the ways we feel inundated with it. But a lot of the developmental tasks and the challenges are really similar.
So a lot of these challenges that you're talking about bring up a lot of different feelings.
Right. And so, because of all these various feelings that we all have and carry, we've developed some tools. And one of them is called the mood meter. And this is just one of the key tools that we use, and it's really a self-awareness tool. But actually, in using this tool, you can learn about all of the building blocks of emotional intelligence. So the way it works, basically, there are these two axes. So you can see, across this way, the degrees of pleasantness. Less pleasant, more pleasant. And then here, the energy level. Higher energy, lower energy. And then you can just see how these intersect. So for example, if I'm starting out here in the blue, if I'm all the way to the extreme corner here with the lowest pleasantness possible and the lowest energy, I would just be in the depths of despair. But going a little further up, maybe I'm feeling disappointed, or maybe I'm a little bit sad or melancholy, sort of depending upon where the degree of pleasantness and energy. Higher energy, still unpleasant. These are the emotions that have to do with anger and of fear. So all the way to the corner would be like enraged, the most intense anger that you could imagine, or terrified. And then you could be angry, scared, frustrated, other nuanced range of emotions in the red. Moving over to the yellow, high pleasantness, high energy would be all the happy kinds of emotions. So you could be to the extreme, you would be really manic, you would be ecstatic, and then you might feel calm or curious and other emotions. And then moving down, a little lower energy, but still pleasant. This is relaxed, calm. In the far corner, I don't know what you would be in the far corner where you're just so chilled out that you can't really function. So what we'd like to ask you now is, So the teens, the youth in the room, how do you want to feel? And the adults who wanted to know, how do you want to feel? And I'm wondering if we might want to just have people just talk with one another.
Absolutely.
So how about if you just turn to the people who are around you that you're sitting with and take a minute to just say, how do you want to feel? Like when you think about the mood meter, where do you most enjoy spending time? Which quadrants of the mood meter would you like to have experienced most often?
So you can think about at school or at home, what are those feelings that you want to have, that you like to have, that you feel really good having? Yes, I was going to bring it back. Definitely.
So you can just, you don't have to look at your brochures. You know how you want to feel. You know, like maybe you want to feel happy, maybe you want to feel elated, maybe you want to feel calm and relaxed. Just, what are emotions you enjoy? Okay. Okay, we bring them back. Okay, I'm going to bring you back in. So what we'd like to do next is we'd just like to hear from you how you'd like to feel, how you'd most like to feel at work, at school, at home. Just we're going to have you just popcorn style once again, and we'll just put little Post-its up on the mood meter.
So we want to hear the specific feelings you're thinking about, not necessarily what color.
Yeah.
But what are those specific words? And Catherine and I are going to stick up about where those go. If you pick a feeling that's higher energy or high unpleasantness or low, put sticky notes up on the mood meter so you can see kind of how those words spread out. So how do you want to feel? At peace. At peace. Okay. Let's just do one or two as an example. Is that a pleasant feeling or unpleasant? Is it high energy or low energy? Okay, so maybe, great. Yes. You like that? Strange and funny?
Funny?
Do you think that's a high energy feeling or a low energy feeling? Do you think it's a pleasant feeling, a feeling that you sort of like having or not so much? Yeah? So where do you think I should put it? All the way up here? All right. All the way up there.
Okay. Okay. Grateful.
It could go in a lot of different places. I'm going to put it here. I think
Yeah.
it's maybe a lower energy feeling. Easy. Do you think that's a yellow feeling or a green feeling? All right.
Okay. Let's keep going. You can just call them out.
In control. Where would you put that? Right here? You think? Like in control. No matter what's coming in my way, I'm ready for it. Empowered. Non-reactive. I don't know how to say that in a positive way.
Calm.
Calm, content.
Not quite calm.
centered,
Mindful.
mindful. Okay, where would you put that? Where do you feel like that falls?
In the higher green.
Yeah.
Maybe here? Okay. Yeah. Appreciated. Do you think that's a pleasant or unpleasant? High or low? Huh? All right.
I think I heard somebody say loved a minute ago. I'm not sure we got that up.
Did someone say loved? Loved? All right, so where would you put love? Pleasant or unpleasant? High or low energy? Very high? Does anyone feel love down here sometimes? Like in that nice, calm, loved versus loved. So some of these feelings we can experience in different ways, at different times. And different personalities experience different feelings in different ways too, yeah. So what do you notice so far?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody said, I want to feel stressed out. I want to feel disappointed. I want to feel despair. Everybody picked those green and yellow feelings. Absolutely. So now we want to ask.
So, next part is to maybe if you don't mind, just kind of look downward or close your eyes for a minute. I just want you to think a little bit about a typical day. Think about when you wake up in the morning and the different feelings that you have moving through your morning. How do you feel? What are some of the emotions that come up for you as you get ready to, many of you are getting ready to leave your house in the mornings? And then you transition into your day, whether it's to school or whether it's to work or whether it's to something else that you do. How are you feeling? Think about the different feelings you have as you move through your day. What kinds of things tend to go on? Different people that you encounter and work with, maybe different classes that you're going to, subjects you enjoy, friends that you like seeing, or maybe friends you have difficulty with. What's going on? How do you feel?
I think I start my day feeling anxious.
Let's just more like go into the evening. What is that like? Say the afternoon, evening, that transition. How are you feeling? And then the end of the day. And what are some of the other feelings that come up for you? So we heard anxious in the morning. That's pretty typical.
Burdened. Where would you put that?
Like more in the blue.
Okay.
Probably a red
Yeah.
feeling a bit when you're stressed. A
Yeah.
lot of that tension comes into that energy in your body. Yeah.
Afraid.
Relaxed.
Relaxed.
And then I heard
Afraid.
Afraid. Rushed. Accomplished. It's probably over here. Feeling, yeah, good and strong. Overwhelmed. That could be maybe here. You could see that as both a pleasant or an unpleasant feeling, depending on what you need for that day.
What else? Lonely. Yeah. Good.
A good feeling.
Great.
So
Great.
probably over here.
Brand
in
new
the
start.
yellow or
Each
the
day is a
green.
new day.
Absolutely. That's a great point. Any other feelings?
Hopeful.
Okay. Where does that fall? Okay. So it could be that you could feel proud about responsibilities that you have. You can feel overwhelmed about them. You can feel exhausted by them. Or you can feel grateful to have them. What do you notice now?
What's happening to the mood meter? It's getting more realistic. That about sums it up. So, What else? We all have a range of emotions through the day, right? Everybody does. Sometimes we call it a roller coaster of emotions. Some people say they have hundreds of emotions in one day. That's how we're built. That's how it is. So we have these emotions, and what do we do with them? And that's what we're exploring here when we're exploring the topic of emotional intelligence. And really also to remember that our feelings are here for a reason. They offer us information. So sometimes we might not be so happy. We might not want to welcome those emotions that we feel. But if we can remember that actually those emotions are a gift to us, and if we take the time to reflect a little bit on why are they coming up, what is this telling us about ourselves, or about our environment, about our relationships, it's an opportunity to really learn more and move forward. So if we welcome our feelings, then we are continuing to have a growth mindset and learn and change and develop.
One of the things that we can think about in terms of that is how each of these groups of emotions, each of these quadrants, can help us or derail us. So when we talk about emotional intelligence, using our emotions to help us achieve our goals, let's think about those red feelings. So those red feelings are feelings like feeling anxious, stressed, overwhelmed, angry, scared. And those red feelings have a purpose, just like all of our feelings. Those feelings can alert us that, like Catherine said, something is wrong. Now, you've probably heard of fight or flight. The fight or flight response that we have, that's a stress response that helps us get out of danger, or helps us either turn and fight if we're in trouble, or turn and run if we're in another kind of trouble. You know, if a bear is running toward you, do you want to turn and fight it, or do you want to get out of there and run away from it? And what happens when we get triggered into the red is that our brain, you see this, my swirling ball here, it's sort of sunk in over time. Our brain gets filled with stress hormones. One of those hormones is called cortisol. And what cortisol does is it essentially shuts down some of the pathways to your prefrontal cortex. Does anyone know what this part of your brain is all about? What does that front part of your brain do?
Decisions.
Yeah, making decisions, reasoning, thinking things through. And so if something happens that triggers you into the red, and you get flooded with those hormones, now if you're in danger, if all of a sudden the fire alarm went off, it would, in a sense, shut down some of our thinking, and you would respond and react. Your body gets, your adrenaline starts pumping, your cortisol is going, your eyes dilate, you get ready to run or to turn and fight. The fire alarm goes off, and you run out the door. You don't even think about it. You just know exactly your body goes for it. Now the problem is sometimes we get triggered during the day, and it's not something we need to run away from. So maybe a teacher says, all right, put your books away, we have a test today, and you think, oh, you didn't tell us there was going to be a test, and now you've been triggered into the red. Should you turn and fight, turn and run, or do something else? Well, your brain is setting you up to do one of those things, and if you're not in control of your brain in that moment, you might do something you don't feel good about. So being in the red can help us. It can help us get out of danger. It can help us, gosh, if we're in the red, we can fight for something we believe in and say, this is not fair, this is an injustice. We can use those red feelings to help us, to fight for something that we believe in. We can use them to help us get out of danger. Or, if we're not careful, if we react when we have those red feelings going on and those stress hormones going on, we might react in a way that we don't feel good about later. So our red feelings can help us or they can hurt us. So, our blue feelings can also help us or hurt us. Those blue feelings are a great way to help us empathize with other people, to understand what they're going through. Did anyone see that movie, Inside Out? Yeah? Yes. And what was that about? It was about blue feelings, right? And grieving and saying, it's okay to feel blue. It's okay. We all have all these feelings. It's okay to have these feelings. There's nothing wrong with these feelings. Your parents have them. You have them. We all have them. And it was about the girl in the movie needing to grieve and needing to be sad about moving and leaving her friends behind and missing her old home. And that once she was able to do that and use that information to help her, she could move forward. So those blue feelings can help us grieve. They can help us connect with someone else who's going through a hard time, to have empathy. Think about all the songs that are written about heartbreak and hard times. They can be used for creativity. But if we're in the blue and we have a hard time getting out of the blue, thank you, it can also be hard to focus. It can be hard to connect with somebody else. It can be hard to reach out for help. Now, when we first did the mood meter exercise and we asked how you wanted to feel, everybody picked green and yellow feelings. And what's interesting about that is that the green and yellow feelings are, I'm going to keep on going, one more, are the best feelings, research shows, for teaching, for learning, for building positive relationships and connecting with others. So those green and yellow feelings help us do that effectively. All of these feelings can help us in some ways. These green and yellow feelings tend to be those that help us with these skills, both as teachers or as parents, as teens, as children. They can help us, but they're not always the best feelings and the most appropriate feelings at times either. So sometimes, can anyone think of a time when a yellow feeling might not be the best feeling to have? Yeah. Yeah, if somebody falls and you start laughing at them. Okay, so you have to know the context, right? So if it's your friend or not your friend. But if you laugh at somebody when they're really hurting, you're not using your blue to have empathy and to match up with them, right? What else? A funeral, sure. It's not the best time to tell your best jokes at a funeral, to be in the yellow and to bring that kind of energy. You want to match the energy of the mood, of the room, of what's going on. How about the green? There are lots of good times. When you're in school all day, if you had to pick the one feeling the teachers wanted you in most often, what would you say it was? It's probably the green. You know, you've got to be there ready for learning activities, lots of sitting down, reading. When you're taking tests, there are a lot of things you're asked to do that are in the green. But when is green not necessarily the best place to be? On the soccer field, sure. You want to be fired up in the yellow or in the red, have that energy, be competitive. Yes. You feel happy when you know that your bus is coming or it's home time? Yeah. And that's a great time to feel in the yellow, to feel happy and excited when you have something to look forward to, like it's time to go home, something you're really excited about. That's a great time to feel in the yellow. Absolutely. And so that might not be the best time to feel in the green, when you want to show excitement, or when you need to advocate for something, or when you're falling behind and you need to get to school and get some energy on. If you're just walking in and saying, yeah, I'll get to class whenever I get there. You know, no one will care. I'm in the green. It's all right. That might not be the best time for those green feelings.
Okay. So it's all interesting, but why does it matter? There's a lot of research at this point that talks about how much our emotions affect our attention, memory, and learning. So has anybody ever, say, come to school and maybe something is going on at home and you find it really hard to concentrate? You're in your first period, I see some nods. Why is that? Why do you think that that's hard to concentrate when you've got something else going on?
You're preoccupied.
Yeah, you're preoccupied. You're not available to learn, right? You're not really in that green and yellow place. You're more in the blue or you're more in the red. And so part of what these skills are is learning how to recognize how you're feeling. And if that's not going to really meet your goals to be in there, how can you get yourself into a different quadrant so that you can meet your goals, so that you can be present for school? So attention, memory, and learning, decision making and judgment. Has anybody here ever made a bad decision? So most people think that they make very rational, clear decisions, but we know that that's actually not the case, that almost always our decisions are affected by our emotions to some degree or another. And so probably the best decisions are made when we bring both we're able to bring rational thinking and what we can gain, information that we can gain from our emotions. So I'm going to say really, very quickly, there was a study that we did of school teachers who were grading papers, and they were reminded to think about the worst day they'd ever had as a teacher, bad day. And they graded their students' papers after that. And then teachers were asked to think about the best day they had ever had, and they graded the papers. And there was as much as a full grade difference between when they were grading the papers feeling unhappy, remembering miserable a day, versus a day that they were feeling great. But the interesting part of that, I mean, that's not really so surprising, but the interesting part of that is when asked, the teacher said, there's no way that my emotions affected how I grade. I grade, I have a standard way that I grade, and it's not, my emotions wouldn't affect. Something like 85% of the teachers thought that. And that's not just true for teachers, I mean, that's just true for all of us across the board. So that's why self-awareness is so important. Our emotions affect our relationship quality. So teachers who see kids who have high skills of emotional intelligence, those kids are usually described as being leaders and having much better relationships. And of course, that impacts our whole life. And physical and mental health, just as Shauna was just pointing out when she was showing us about the brain and cortisol. We know how much our emotions can affect our health. So we're going to play a little movie here for you.
So we're going to see some emotions in action here. And let me pull this up. So we want you to take a look at this clip.
Recognize them?
And see what emotions you see in action and how those emotions are shown. I'm going to turn the lights off, so it's going to get dark for just a moment. And then we'll jump in. All right. So you can see there are a lot of different ways, a lot of different emotions in that clip, and a lot of different ways that we show emotions. So to demonstrate all the different ways that we might show emotions, we'd like to play a little game. And to do that, I need some volunteers. Yes, come on up. Come on up. Yeah, you can come too. Was that a hand too? We can take a few more. Anybody else? Woo! All right, thanks for volunteering. Come on down. Yeah, come on up. Anyone who's ready to volunteer. Now, you who volunteered are lucky because you're the ones who don't have to act. No, it's okay though. So, how's your feelings vocabulary? Do you know a lot of different feeling words? Okay, good. So here, what's that?
You want just teens?
No, I want everybody up here. So here's what we're going to do. So we're going to think about the different ways that people show emotions. All of you are our audience, but we're going to be looking at you. And what we're going to do is this. We are going to, let's see. I was thinking about doing sort of the lineup that we had talked about, but it might be good to just, let's do that. Let's get in the line of 4. So first person up front, and then go ahead and line up behind her, whoever's going to be next. And here's
But you
what's going to
keep
happen.
facing this way.
Have you ever played that game called Heads Up? Yes. You put something on your forehead. Everybody else can see it. You can't see it. Now, we're going to put a word up here, a feeling. And what we'd like you to do in the audience is act out that feeling, and you try to guess it.
Oh, it's going to be fun.
And when you get it, if you guess the feeling, I'll ding the bell. You run to the back of the line. You get the next feeling.
Oh, we winning this. Come on.
You got this? So let's see. We're going to see how many you can do. We're going to see how many you can do in maybe 2 minutes.
Okay, that means that all of you are actors. So all of you are helping them by acting out these emotions so that they're going to be able to guess as accurately and quickly as possible.
And if you feel really stuck, you can just look to us and say pass, and we'll give you another one. Okay? So that way you get a chance if you feel really stuck. Or you can run to the back of the line if you feel like, well, I'm not going to the back. You're up. That's right. Fight or flight.
Wait,
Please
hang on,
don't
Sean.
fight if you want to flee to the
Hang
back.
on. What?
No sounds. So it has to be body actions. And I've got to tell you, if only some people in the audience respond and some people don't, it gets very confusing. Because some people might be doing this and you're saying excited, happy, and other people are doing this and just bored, tired, lonely. And so we really need your help with this. Are you ready? Okay, here we go. We've already got the instructions. Your first word is this.
Exciting.
They get harder.
Anxious.
Proud. Happy. Pleased. Arrogant.
Oh, you're so close.
Very self-confident. Frustrated. You're too mad.
Frustrated.
The kids are
Angry. Proud.
joyful.
Strong.
so close, so close. You can ask your team if they haven't looked. See if they can help you out.
Oh, I looked. I can't.
I look too.
Oh, that's okay.
Should we pass?
Maybe
Pass?
Pass. I'm sorry.
Brave.
Oh, brave.
You were so close. You almost had it. You had everything around that.
Disappointed. Pissed off. Worried. Confused. Angry. They're so cute.
They are so cute.
Good.
Frustrated.
Over it.
Oh, you're so close.
Yes, you are, girl. You got this. Just think about it. I don't know. Can I ask my team?
If they haven't looked, yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Have you all looked?
I didn't look. Like, what's the word? Like, duh. Like,
That's exactly what it is. But what is that word? What's that feeling that goes with that? All right. Annoyed. Great job. All right. Thank you so much. Go ahead and have a seat. Does anyone else want to turn? Yeah, that was great. We'll take a few more volunteers. One more round. Who else wants to give this a shot? It's tricky, but it's a lot of fun, too. Any other volunteers want a shot? Yeah, come on up. All right. Yeah, come on up. Great. Anybody else? All right.
Yay.
All right, here we go.
Are they going to get harder, or we go back to the beginning?
And if you have a really good memory, you can just go back. They're gonna be a little challenging. They're gonna be a little challenging, but if they get too hard, you can pass, and we'll go on. Are you ready? Who's first? Paul, are you first?
Sure. Surprised, elated, heavenly, celebratory, joy, amazed. I want to look. Excited. Enlightened.
Oh, so close.
Enlightened. Blissful. Blissed out.
Inspired.
Come on, I said it. Didn't I? What? I didn't hear it.
Inspired.
Do you want to ask your...
Fire. Yeah.
That was a tough one, and we stuck you right in there.
frustrated, disappointed, mad, really angry.
What's another word for really angry?
Oh,
Starts with an F.
ferocious.
You can ask for help from your team if you want.
Think about your facial expressions.
Furious.
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 Curious.
Oh. All right, here I am again, the guy with 2 minutes.
But you had a great vocabulary for these feelings.
Nervous, fearful, timid, worried.
Thankful. Please. Please, I said that.
You can get help from your team too if you need it.
Proud.
Insecure? Unsure?
Very close.
astonished.
You got it. Surprise, yeah. All right, thank you. Thank you so much, both for coming up and guessing and being in the audience. So this isn't just fun, isn't just a game to play, but it's our reality of life when we think about emotions. Oftentimes, one, we show emotions in different ways. So when you look out at that audience, you're seeing all these different ways that people express emotions. We show emotions in many different ways, but we also have to realize that oftentimes we only get a glimpse at someone to think about how they're feeling. And so sometimes that glimpse is all we have. Knowing the context, knowing them and how they show that emotion might help give us cues to know how they're feeling and how we might be able to support them. Yeah, we'll flip through all of these words that we had on here just in case you really got good at this. And we'd love for you, if you picked up one of these worksheets, if not, we can pass them around, to think about this. How do you show different emotions? How do you show it when you're in the yellow, the red, the green, or the blue? And feel free to turn, if you have family with you, or if you have friends with you, or someone nearby, you could talk about this together, or you could start and do it yourself just for a moment and think about, how do you show each of these different colors? What happens in your face? What happens in your body? What does your voice sound like when you're showing these different feelings? So as you're going through this exercise, what are you noticing? Is there anything that's surprising, or is it, what was that?
What emotions are we feeling as we're doing our exercise? Is that what you're asking?
No, just what are you noticing about yourself? Is there anything that's surprising to you? Is it something that you already have thought about a lot? What did you notice in doing this exercise? Sure, if you would like to.
We went to the negative side first, and I think I find that more compelling in general. It's like more intimate and more vulnerable to share that side of things. And I know Laura, I was like, I want to know her side of the real.
Sure, sure.
I don't know if I would do that with a stranger here.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's like a very, and you can connect on that. You can share it invariably with partners. Oh yeah, I feel that.
It's interesting that it's not, like ours aren't the same, what makes us feel red or blue are not the same, which is interesting, but I definitely feel like I have sharing that makes me feel better, like that self-compassion and
Sure.
understanding too.
Well, and you get to know each other a little bit better because you say, well, we both feel frustrated sometimes, or we both feel stressed sometimes, or sad sometimes, but what makes you feel that way makes something different, makes me feel that way. By knowing that, I can support you a little bit better. Yeah, absolutely. Did anyone else notice anything?
Scheme provided us with a nice structure to test it. One of the things that we always have been expressing, and now we've got the structure that makes it easy to discuss different kinds of emotions. So the way it's laid out is very helpful.
Great. So it was a way to be able to say, okay, these red feelings that are similar because of this, or these blue feelings are kind of similar because of this, makes it easier to talk about. And that's one of the points of the mood meter, is to give us a concrete language to talk about those feelings, or a shared language that we can use to sort of bring them together in that way. Thank you for bringing that up. Yes, in the back. Okay, so some of these feelings maybe you are showing outwardly, and others you're not. And that may be intentional, and it may not be intentional. It may be something that you realize, oh, this is just how I respond.
Sometimes the same type of event will put in a different quadrant, depending on other things that are going on.
Absolutely. Yeah, sometimes the same event might make us angry or frustrated, and it might make us sad on other days. Or it could even make us excited on some days.
Maybe some of that has to do with how you were feeling coming into it.
And sometimes the same event puts different people in different quadrants. So for somebody, something might put them in the red where it puts someone else in the blue. Yeah. Yes?
I noticed that when coming up with the yellows, it really helped me to uplift my mood a little. So just focusing on it and thinking about it and thinking about how my body is and my mind in that state, gave me a happy feeling and an excited feeling. So I could change my emotion by what I was focusing on and trying to feel.
Absolutely. There are things you can do to change your emotions. There are things you can do to shift yourself from one place to another. If you're focusing on all and thinking about all those things that put me in the yellow, all of a sudden I'm feeling yellow because I'm thinking about those things and I'm reminding myself of those things. Yeah, definitely. Yes?
I wish that it was easier to tell what my kids were feeling by language.
Sure, that's a great point. And I'm so glad you mentioned that, because that is
It's a great
a
lead-in.
great segue into what we're talking about. Is it can be challenging as parents to know what our kids are feeling. Or vice versa, as kids you might be saying, I really wish I knew what my parents were feeling more often because I can't tell all the time. And there are so many challenges that come up for kids at different ages, and especially in those teenage years.
Yeah. So how we express ourselves is different. Oops. Let's see. And emotions come with certain emotion. There are emotion themes. So you might not be able to tell necessarily how somebody is feeling by what shows on their face or their body. But the more you know about the kinds of stories and themes that go along with emotions, the better questions you can ask to find out. So for example, sometimes parents say that their teenagers seem maybe a little sullen. They wonder if they're angry, but they're not sure. They say, are you, what's going on? They say nothing. But if you know that a theme that goes with anger has to do with injustice, and you ask, for example, is there something that you feel is unfair that's going on here at home? That might open up a conversation. So these are all these different emotion themes which you can certainly learn about and which really help get conversation going and help you understand yourself as well as others much better.
And there are a lot of things that are happening throughout development. As we're getting older, I have a 6-year-old daughter. I don't have a teenager at home yet, but I will someday. And I've been a teen myself and gone through that. But there's so much that's happening that leads to us being able to understand each other or pushing away from each other during these years. So what's going on during these teen years? Well, a couple of things really quickly are that we've got, for teenagers, a lot of brain changes. A lot of hormones are changing. You are growing and changing in different ways. So that prefrontal cortex we were talking about, well, it grows a lot when you're young, when you're 3, 4, and 5 years old, but it's not done until you're in your 20s. And even then, it's still growing and changing. And something that happens during the teen years is that teens often are more likely to be risk takers, to go out and try different things, to step out of their comfort zone. And that can be scary for parents because we want you to be safe, and we want you to be protected, and we don't want you to step so far out of that comfort zone. But at the same time, it's a really important part of figuring out who you are and getting out there and trying different things and figuring out what your own boundaries are. So it's a very normal part of growing up. That's part of seeking autonomy and independence and wanting to be your own person. And also separating yourselves from your parents. That was a theme that came up as one of those challenges, is how do I separate myself but also get that love and support that I need? Because we still want and need that love and support our whole lives, no matter how old we are and how old our parents are. But then also that challenge of becoming your own person. And there are challenges not just for teens, but for parents of teens during this phase.
So one of the big challenges for parents is often the shifting from being the manager of your child's life when they're young to, as the child is growing up and wants to become more independent and needs to, that's a part of their developmental task, how do you also shift your role to continue to be supportive and continue to have a close and trusting relationship? So we know that we want the best for our teens and we want to maintain a relationship, and often the challenge is, how do we do that? So it's not only a developmental stage for teens, but it's also a developmental stage for adults. So
do you want to talk about your story?
Yeah, so I'll share a story with you that I shared with Shauna. My son, who's 25 now, when he was in middle school, he was a part of a group. It was like a mentoring group with a group of boys, and they did lots of mountaineering, and they explored. They developed their own code of ethics, and they explored what it was to be a male beyond those gender stereotypes that we talked about, so that they could really have their own definition of being a male. And there was at some point when they were moving into high school where they were feeling a little frustrated with us as their parents, because for the very things that we said, I thought I really understood how, as an educator, how I needed to shift and support him as a young man. But all of us were failing to do this in certain ways. We had our own blind spots. And so the boys said to their mentor leaders that they wanted to have a meeting with their parents. And they thought about what they really wanted to say to us. And they practiced saying it in a way that was respectful so we could hear it. And so there we were, this group of 4 boys and their parents all gathered in this room. And they each went around and said to us what was very difficult for them to communicate. But it was so honest and raw in a way. And I remember my son said, you know, I just need you to see that I'm changing. And when you remind me, did I take this? Did I remember to do that? It's like you're keeping me small. You're not seeing that I'm managing my own life pretty well. And if I make a mistake, I just need to make my own mistakes. And it's so I think that's a great example of what can happen. Like you don't even realize. Then I just caught myself how often every morning I wanted to remind him to take something, and I tried to stop. And it's the same in so many ways, but part of what was beautiful about that is that we actually had an honest and open conversation, and that opened the way then to have many more.
And one of the things that we want to give you the space to do today is have a conversation about the kinds of feelings that you want to have at home. So as you noted, there are things we can do to change our feelings, to shift our feelings. And if we think about, okay, what are all the feelings we're having in a typical day? We're having feelings all over the place. When I'm at school, where are my feelings? Are they all over the place? Are they mostly here, or does it depend on the day? What about at home? Home is really supposed to be, we hope, a safe space, a place to go and feel okay having these feelings when you need to have them and sharing those feelings, but having these feelings as often as you want to have them as well. And one of the activities that we have done is called, one of our other tools, is called a charter. And a charter is a 3-step process where we have conversations not about all the things that have gone wrong and aren't working and that we're struggling with. Those are really hard conversations to have. It's much easier and more productive to have conversations about, well, how do we want to feel? How do we want to feel at home? And we talked about this a little bit earlier. How do you want to feel? If you say, I want to feel appreciated or I want to feel valued, then we can have a conversation about, okay, when you're at home, what helps you feel this way? What do we do to help one another feel this way? Because teens and kids want to feel these feelings, but so do parents. We all want to have these feelings. So what can we do if we work together to have those feelings? If we want to have green and yellow feelings more often when we're together at home, what are the things that help us feel that way? And make a plan to start doing that more often, or doing that together and talking about it. I see a hand up in the back, yes. When we get to that, we're going to talk about the feelings that you want to have. The feelings that you want to have. No, that's terrific. And so those feelings might come in a lot of different forms. You know, when we've done charters with families in the past, a lot of different feelings that have come up have been loved, happy, valued, appreciated, calm, supported, cheerful, inspired, compassionate, present. But it depends on you. It depends on what is most meaningful to you. What is most meaningful to your family? And then what role does everybody play? Because from all sides, everybody plays a role in helping one another have these feelings. No matter how old you are, if you're 3 or 13 or 16 or 35 or 65, we all play a role in impacting one another's feelings. And what we'd like to do is give you some space to think about. Some of you are here with your families. Some of you are here alone or with friends. And you can do this exercise right now in either of those ways. You can do it with your friends, you can do it with your family, or you can think about alone, okay, what would I do? And we'd like you to find some space. You can be, there's plenty of space in this room, but if you want to go out in the hallway, or we'll give you some other rooms that you could go to if you want some other space, is to think about this. We've given you a worksheet with a space to write down what are the feelings that are most important to you, that you want to have, and then to have a conversation. Again, if it's with your friends, you could share out what are the feelings you picked, what are the feelings I picked, and then think about what are the things that I can do to contribute to those feelings for myself and for others around me at home, or if you want to think about at school among your friends as well. And then also to think about what will we do if we're not having these feelings or if conflict comes up. And we want to give you some time to really think about this and dive in and then come back and talk about it together.
Just add one thing?
Yeah.
So one of the things that I love about this is that I've had times when I've just felt like I'm kind of stuck in a certain kind of emotional climate that I'm really not enjoying, and I haven't known how to change it or shift it. But this is actually a way to begin to think about how you are collectively creating the kind of emotional climate that you want to have. So it's very empowering, and we do it in schools. Whole schools do it, classrooms do it, businesses do it, and families can do it. And you can even do it with friends. So this is just an opportunity. If you're here with your family, you can begin. If you're here with friends, just practice it, but maybe you want to take it home to your family or your workplace and really do it there.
So we want to give you some time to think through this and to work on this a little bit together. And then we're going to regroup at about, let's say, 8:40?
Yeah, I just want to check to be sure, is the end time 9 or 8:30? 9:30. Okay.
And if you need other spaces to go, there are other rooms you can go to, or you can stay here in your seats, or if you want to get up and move around a little bit, that's okay too. And we'll be here to circulate. But don't leave. Come back. We have a little bit more.
I mean, it seems like we can really just, there's enough space that we can just stay here. And we'll walk around and help you if you have questions or... So are you gonna work on it together?
I was going to say, if anybody's here alone and wants to join a group, there are groups that are happy to have folks join in and come and talk about this together.
Let's take this off.
Yeah. On. What was this like for you? What was this experience like? Or what do you feel like you might have gained from this experience and having this kind of conversation?
I feel empowered that there's a template for a plan.
Sure. So it kind of gives a guide for how to have a conversation like this. Absolutely. Something that I really like about the charter is that it also gives everybody a voice. You know, and really encourages that everybody involved has a voice and has a say in how we're going to go about doing this. And something we didn't talk about, but is that once we get through this process, I'm not sure where I'm standing or what to do with this, that we all sign the charter. Once we feel like, okay, we've got a pretty good plan here, let's all sign it, because that shows that we're unified in it. And that doesn't mean, it's not a contract. If you sign this charter, it doesn't mean that you have to do everything on there, but it means that as a family, as a group of friends, as a classroom, as colleagues, we're going to try our best to do these things. These are things we think will give us an emotionally safe environment, an environment where we can be ourselves, where we feel supported, where we feel appreciated, or whatever those words are that you might have chosen. And this is what we're going to do. These are our rules that we're going to try our best to follow because we know it's going to help one another feel this way. Yeah. Any other thoughts? Yes. It's an emotional process. When we talk about emotions, I mean, that brings up a lot of different feelings. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Yes, do you want to share something? Were you stretching your arm or did you have an idea you wanted to share? You were stretching your arm. Okay. Thank you for telling me. Anybody else? Yes.
I thought it was interesting that, like as we've gone throughout this, like everyone shares very similar emotions, like everyone shares very similar ideas. But like as we were writing this, like one would say something and we were like, yeah, this, and like another person would say something and like, oh my gosh, it's too. I was about to say it. It's really interesting that we all had similar ideas, and maybe we expressed it differently, but it was still the same concept, which was kind of reassuring to know that as people that, like colleagues or the people that I surround myself with, we have similar ideas, similar mental state of mind.
Yeah, definitely.
That's nice. You could have a friendship group charter.
Yeah, definitely. Let me just ask everyone a question real quick that goes along with that. Because like you were saying, when you're saying, yeah, I want to feel that way too, or yeah, I agree with that too. Can I just ask you to raise your hands if I name a feeling from this list that you want to have? Loved. Okay. And if I name a feeling you don't want to have, put it down. Happy. Valued. Appreciated. Supported. Compassionate. Understood. Proud. Optimistic. Okay, I didn't see any hands going down. So what does this tell us about everybody in this room? And we all want to have the same feelings. We all want to have the same feelings. But what that means for each of us might be different. So when I say I want to feel happy, that might be a set of things that's different than what makes Catherine feel happy. Or if you say, I want to feel proud or I want to feel respected, that might be different from you than for someone else. And so the charter gives us this template to have those conversations, to learn more about each other and learn more about ourselves as parents, ourselves as kids or teens, and to learn about one another, because we don't have these conversations that often like this.
Yeah. And I was just going to add that step number 2 is the one that I usually find to be the most challenging. So, what kinds of behaviors will help us feel this way more often? So if you say that you want to feel, happy or you want to feel loved, and if the how is you just say be nice, that's not really specific enough. So you really want to drill down with very observable behaviors, so that you're much more likely to be able to make that happen. And you can play with that if something isn't quite working. This is a living document. So you can just say like, this doesn't really seem to be working. Let's try this. But again, it's all together as a voice. Everybody who's a part of it has an equal voice in keeping it alive. And
Do you have on your website examples of how other families or systems help?
we have
We
tons of
we have
examples. I
different
better throw on our
videos, we have
website.
examples. I don't know right now if they're posted on the website.
I don't know. We'll look,
They
but we sure
exist,
have a
so
lot.
something that we can certainly share out and look at. And charters are used in a lot of different ways. So they're used with families. They're used in classrooms at schools. They're used with staff. Even your teachers could create charters together to see how they work together. They can work. What other ways have charters been
Well, lots of
used?
organizations use them,
Yeah.
so teams within organizations. We're starting to train students at Yale
Yep.
and Dartmouth and another college too, so it's spreading.
Definitely. So you can think about how you might take the charter and use it yourself. So take it home. Some of you might take it home and think about how you have a conversation with your family about this, if you think they'd be open to it. Or even just thinking about, what can I do myself with my family, with my friends, at my school, to promote these feelings more often, for me and for other people. The mood meter, as we were talking about as well, is another tool you can also take with you. It's so easy to make a mood meter. All you need is 4 pieces of paper, red, yellow, blue, and green. And the mood meter can be used to think about yourself during the day. You know, where am I? When I walk into school, all right, who remembers where's the best place to be for learning, for being a good friend? Yeah, yellow and green. Are you always in the yellow and green when you walk into school in the morning? Are you always in the yellow and green when you walk into work in the morning? No, certainly not. No, we're all over the place. But you can start thinking about, all right, what do I do? When I'm in the red, what do I do to help myself have that feeling, to recognize, okay, I'm in the red, I'm kind of frustrated today. What can I do to move myself over here if that's where I want to be? If I walk in and I see that my friend is in the blue today, what do I do to help that friend who's in the blue? What do I do to reach out to them? What do they need? And having those conversations with them to learn what helps them when they're in the blue or what helps them when they're in the red can help us reach out to other people and look beyond ourselves too. So the mood meter can be used to think about where we are and where we want to be and how do we get there. For you parents at home, one way that the mood meter can be used is to think about, all right, where am I when I come home from work at the end of the day? Or if I've had a long day or I've been stuck in traffic and I'm coming into the red, where do I want to be to have the best time with my family tonight? It's probably not in the red. Stop that. I told you not to do that. Cut it out. It's probably somewhere over here. So what do I do in that time from walking in from the car to walking into the house to switch myself? And now, as parents, we also, in a lot of ways, can impact our children. And as children and teens, you can also impact your parents. So what do we do to help shift each other around? So the mood meter can be used in those ways. It's a really easy tool to start thinking about. And if you start using that language, like, oh man, I'm in the red right now. What am I going to do to get out of it? It starts catching on.
And you can list your strategies. You can start to just have a little place where you keep track of strategies that are effective for you. And you can build on that and you can talk with other people about it. Just like as most of us know, even long, slow, deep breaths can really just help calm you down if you're feeling higher energy than you'd like to be. But there are lots of strategies. There are thought strategies, action strategies, and so just start to build that for yourself that are healthy.
Before we wrap up with a few final thoughts from us, we wanted to give you a space to ask questions, because we heard a lot of great questions coming up as you were thinking about the mood meter, as you were thinking about how you show emotions, as you were thinking about the charter. And we'd love to just see what other questions you have that you'd like to talk about or address. Yes?
I'd love to hear from teens advice to parents of what we should do most important.
I think that is a great question. Yes. Do you have some?
I feel like if you like you put yourself in the shoes that you were once as a teen, you'll see like what was it that you wanted your parents to do when you were like maybe they didn't let you out as much, or maybe they kind of suppressed from trying to be like out more outgoing, or like I was very I'm very blessed to have parents that are very open minded, but like I've had a lot of parents that they don't let me out, they don't let me experiment, they don't let me express myself, they tell me that I'm wrong all the time when they don't even listen, and it's more of maybe if you put yourself, if they were to understand that once they were in that same situation, if they felt that their parents didn't let them express themselves or be allowed to do certain things, it's they have to learn on their own. know, like I've done this before. I don't want you to go through what I did, but like how are they gonna learn if they don't go through it themselves? You know, like you can try to bubble wrap your child, but they're gonna have to fall, and the bubbles are gonna pop. Like they're gonna have to do it themselves.
Does anyone else have an answer to share? Anybody else want to share? Any of the teens or kids in the room think this is something parents should know or think about? You agree? Okay.
You know, there's a lot of research about it, and it's really kind of the middle path. So what some parents think like, okay, so I can't be the manager anymore, so they go the other direction. But laissez-faire parenting isn't good for kids either. So when you just kind of check out, or you just say, just care about how the child feels, but you're no longer providing some structure, you're no longer modeling the values, you're not having the conversations and providing some guidance, that's not good either. So as a kid, you might kind of want that because you're feeling your oats and you're feeling like, hey, I can manage myself, but you still need that relationship with your parent. And there's no question about it. The research is overwhelming. But you also, some parents respond by they feel anxious and afraid, and so they become more overbearing and try to control more. And I think that's what you're referring to, is that doesn't work either. So that creates what happens is kids kind of lose their sense of self-confidence, or they might become really rebellious. So it's really finding that middle place where you stay, keep that relationship close, have those important conversations, ask what feels supportive. How do you feel supported? And then it's just an ongoing process of just somewhere in the middle, modeling your values, having the conversations.
And part of it's setting boundaries, but also explaining why. Like, why are these limits in place? And I just saw you say you agree with that. So why are limits in place? So if you have to be home by 8 o'clock on a school night, or 9 o'clock, or 10 o'clock, or whatever it is, why is that important to our family? Why does this matter? And when we have a reason, it also teaches, from the teen perspective, not that I'm speaking for you guys, ladies, it helps us understand why that's important and why that keeps us safe.
And it helps you do your own reasoning as well.
Also, like, most likely the reason a parent's doing something is because their parents do it to them, but they should go back to them and do it that way.
So did everybody hear that? So do you care if I just paraphrase you? She just said that she thinks that most likely most parents just parent the way they do because that's how they were parented, and there's a lot of truth to that.
But they should go back and remember how they
Try to remember how they felt. So just more self-reflection, because we all get an emotion education. We're all learning about emotions through our interactions with our parents and all the adults around us as we're growing up. But by reflecting, just as you're saying, you could think, is that really the way I want to do it? Just because that's what I learned, is that actually the best way? So this is an opportunity to become emotional intelligence. This is about, as Shauna said, being self-reflective and being intentional and choosing how you want to work with your emotions and the emotions of others, rather than just reacting and just kind of playing out what you've learned without ever really reflecting on it.
Yeah, in fact.
I know for me, one of the hardest challenges, the biggest challenges I had was communicating that it's hard to be a parent, and you don't always know what to do, and that we're all trying our hardest, and we might go about it in different ways, but it's all, we love our families, and we're trying to do what we think is the best for them, but it's not always right. So kind of explain that in a way that be absorbed by the rest of the family and the process.
Yeah,
I don't think I've ever met a parent who didn't want what was best for their kids.
yeah.
I think we all do.
I think it's important for teens to remember that too. Like when you're like, oh, this is so unfair, they're restricting me. It's like you have to think about it and be like, they're doing this because they love me, because they want to keep me safe. Like I would do this for my child. Like you have to put yourself in that mindset as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But your parents are doing the best they can.
Yeah.
And really trying to keep your best interest in mind.
Shauna, we should go through. I mean, this is a great
Sure.
segue to
So
the project that Shauna did.
I I'm teaching a class at Oregon State on parenting and parent relationships with their children. And some of the students in my class are teens themselves. They're 17, 18, 19. Some of them are a little older, and some are even parents themselves who are older than that. And I asked them, I told them that we were coming here this week to come and talk about this. And our class on Monday was actually about adolescent and teen development. What's going on for teens and parents of this age? So after we had our class time and our activities and our lecture on this, I said, well, what do you think, from being a teen or being a parent, what do you think are the most important messages? If you had a chance to come to this group and share one message for parents and one message for teens, what would they be? And I made a list of those to share with you today. So these are thoughts from my students on messages for parents. Should we read this off, Catherine?
Yeah, let's do it.
Go ahead.
So a message for parents. We have to show each other we care in different ways, saying it and showing it, and make sure your teen can hear it.
Your actions, positive and negative, affect your child.
Give teens space to make mistakes. Don't try to solve all their problems.
It's important to have someone to talk to for your children, even if it's not you. If they have a trusted adult in their life, that can make a difference.
Tell kids about your lives.
Find the things that you feel good doing together. And that goes back to our charter that we were talking about.
Consider your teens' feelings.
Communicate that it's okay to make mistakes.
Talk about challenging topics, even if it's hard.
And a few more that they shared. Communicating openly and in a non-judgmental way can help your teen have conversations with you about challenging topics.
Let your teen know that you recognize the struggles and challenges that they're facing.
Teens don't always want to talk. You can also just be there for each other. Hug, spend time together.
Teens may want your love and attention, even when it doesn't seem like they do.
Your teen loves you.
You matter.
And then they also gave some messages for teens, for you. Here's what they said.
Your parents care about you. Other people care about you.
Your parents may be flawed, but they want what's best for you.
Your parents are doing the best they can.
Find someone to talk with, even if it isn't your parent.
You are not alone.
Tell someone if you're upset. It's okay to feel that way.
Parents have feelings too.
Your parents may not know how to talk to you either.
Don't be afraid to be yourself.
You're loved by your family.
You matter.
Would anyone be willing to read this quote aloud? Yeah? Go for it.
I've learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did. But people will never forget how you made them feel.
Thank you.
Somebody else want to read it?
Yeah, go for it. We can just hear it twice. Yeah.
I've learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did. People will never forget how you made them feel.
One more? Anyone else want to read it out loud? So we can hear it? Yeah, go for it. Absolutely. And we'll just end with a couple of final thoughts to put up here. One is that emotions matter. Your feelings matter. How you feel, whether you're a parent or a teen, affects you. It affects you every day, in every interaction, in everything you do at work, home, and school. And we need to acknowledge that.
Practice compassion for yourself and others. So when you have empathy, and then you even have the sense that you want to move forward and do something and take some action, that's compassion. And I'm going to just add one thing.
Go ahead.
For many of us, it's the most difficult to be compassionate for ourselves, but it's got to start there. So just be kind to yourself. Treat yourself as you would treat a dear friend.
Trying something new takes courage. We've talked about a lot of ideas today that may be not new for some of you, but may be very new for others. And to go out there and try something new, or try something that you've thought about but with a new person, or in a different way, or in your family trying to set up a new pattern, it takes a lot of courage. And it takes patience, and it takes practice, but making that first step is so important.
And the relationship is worth it. And your family is your family for your life, and your dear friends are often friends for life. And so, for example, if something happens and some repair work needs to be done, have the courage to do that. Have the courage to approach the problem and talk it through and apologize, for example. It's worth working hard to take good care of those people that you love and who love you.
Thank you so much for being here with us tonight and for sharing so openly with us. We really appreciate
I brought this up because I wanted to show something. I wasn't just looking at my phone. We have a mood meter app, and some of you might like it. So it's just the mood meter, and I think it says Yale on it or something. But it's pretty great because, for example, if I touch there, then it will say, "Oh, are you feeling lively?" And I'm like, "Oh no, wait, I think I feel more cheerful." And so it shows you, and then you can plot it, and then it asks you, "Why are you feeling this way?" And so you can sort of chart how you're feeling over time, and work on strategies. And anyway, it's fun. I recommend it.
It is in the App Store.
Yeah. The mood meter, and it says Yale or Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence.
And we want to be respectful of your time. We know it's late, but we'll hang around if anyone wants to come up and chat, ask questions, or continue the conversation. So we'll be up here. Have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.